All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. We're just a bunch of Kiss fans and we talk Kiss. So come along for the ride, you've got nothing to lose. All right, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill. We got Marcus Almighty in the house.
Greetings.
We have to welcome Mark back to the board. He's been off the message board for a month, but he's back in now, and it's really good news to have him back part of the community. Daniel joining us this week. Daniel.
Hi.
And then the voice of reason, Ken. Lonnie had to bail out at the last minute, unfortunately, because life comes first, as always, when it comes to podcasting. Thank you to everyone who's joining us live. Jeff Davidson, Rex Metzer, Sylvie, Austin Newland, Dimebag Dave 77. Yeah, that's a great name. That brings up some images. Max Dusance. Tell me if I got that right, Matt, because I'll be using that again shortly when we introduce the topic. There's not a lot of news we're going to get into this week because we have a topic. My mail room call this week was really boring. It was just the pin from the Kiss Army membership package finally arrived. And I'll say this. I do like the quality of the pin. It's made out of metal, and it's got a nice, kind of print on it color-wise. But I really wish they'd revert back to the originals now, if that's the end of the road is done. And the only thing that matters is the original, version of the group. Then I'd much rather
the originals.
No more of this stuff. It's past its sell-by date. That's just opinion. We had a super long episode last week. Thank you to everyone who's watched that because it was very fun to do. And this week's topic, which we're just going to jump into, is one that was suggested by Max Dusance. And it is a what if. Let me just preface this episode by saying Kiss Alive 2 does not need fixing. Kiss Alive 2 is Kiss Alive 2. It's a double platinum certified album. It's central to many people's Kiss listening experiences because of being released in 1977 after Superstardom and after Paul Lynde. So it is what it is. Nothing needs fixing. We've done, episodes about this album previously where I've berated it for its sonics. We've gone over all facets of it, as have many podcasts. But today, we're just framing the conversation as instead of using 5 new studio songs to fill out side 4 of Kiss Alive 2, what if they had used 5 of the other songs that were either available from the 3 studio albums released in 1976 and 77, or those that have been performed during the Alive 2, Love Gun, Rock and Roll Over, and Destroyer tours that had fallen by the wayside without repeating any of the material on Alive. So it's just a what-if scenario. We're not going to go into track sequences, but it's also a good point just to refresh everyone's memories with just our general views of Alive 2 before we jump in with some of the picks. And I want to hear your guys' picks out there as well. So Ken brought the receipts. He brought the receipt because that is Ken's original copy of Kiss Alive 2 from 1877.
Yeah, I bought this in 1977. So yeah, it's still
looks like you didn't even play it or something.
I played it quite a bit. Actually, I played it yesterday or the day before yesterday.
That's good conditioning there, my friend.
It sounded great. No scratches or nothing on it. So I took care of it. Yeah. And this is the other one. This is another. This is not from 77. Well, I didn't buy this one in 77. I bought this later, but this is the misprint.
That is the misprint one, which of course lists Take Me, Do You Love Me, and Hooligan on the back cover. And of course, they do not appear on the album. A abomination of a version of Take Me was released in 1996 on Your Best. There is a dedicated video that splits that out. That gatefold remains glorious.
Hell yeah.
Daniel, your overall impressions of Kiss Alive 2 before we take it apart and get rid of that studio side.
Well, when it comes to the visuals, the cover and the inside of the album, it's absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the best albums ever released. Especially the inside there is awesome. I can't think of any kid, around 10 years old that would not think that's awesome and cool. Still to this day, it blows your mind when looking at that picture there. And when it comes to the album, I think there are some things could have been a bit improved. I would have preferred it to be an all-out live album, leaving off the studio tracks, maybe adding some of them on later albums. For example, All American Man would have been perfect on a real studio album because I think it's such a great song. It's kind of a throwaway on the fourth side here on Alive 2. And the thing that is the biggest thing for me is actually the crowd sound on the album. And to make it sound like a real crowd. So, but we have a lot of great songs on there and a lot of great performances. So it's 5 out of 5 stars. Anyhow.
Mark, how about you? And congratulations on your Hotter Than Hell appearance.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, I had to echo a little bit of what Daniel said. I think the packaging and stuff like that is fantastic. The booklet that came with it and all those things. It's always great to have those things, the tattoos and all that are in there. It's the packaging is great, and it has been a big inspiration for me in my own albums, like to give the extras, blah blah blah. But as far as overall, I think Alive 2 is probably my least favorite of the ones. I think I even like Alive 3 better, to be honest, from a sonic perspective as well. I just find the audience that's in there just makes it unlistenable on headphones for me. Just absolutely, it's just too much. It sounds like you're listening to like a Beatles album or something, like live album. It's too much screech in there, too much. And then the overall, mixing of it, not the greatest. I think it's good. I mean, and it is a classic period of time, obviously. So, but it's not my favorite by a long shot. Alive 2, and mainly for those reasons. And and I was never a big fan of this idea that we cannot repeat something that we had from the other albums. I thought that it made it for a sort of unrealistic sounding live album.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on a lot of that, especially the shrill audience is just intolerable to me. I don't listen to the live album whatsoever. I listen to the studio side, which is kind of ironic since we're getting rid of that today in today's conversation. I listen to soundboards from 77, the Houston shows, Largo from December. Those do me just fine for experiencing that Toronto 76 for earlier on as well. So there's no shortage of soundboards for any of that. To me, there is only Alive. But Alive 2 is marginally better than Alive 3, which is marginally better than Alive 4. It really is a vast drop-off to me for my tastes. But again, I wasn't there in 77, and Eddie Kramer did very, very well out of it. Any final thoughts, Ken? Because you only did the real show and tell rather than the tell part.
Yeah, it's my favorite, it's still kind of my favorite live album. I mean, it was because of the first one I bought and the first one I listened to, and when I got it back then, I didn't know the crowd was not the real crowd. It all worked, and most of the crowd they kept the crowd in there on the songs, but the beginning and ending of the songs, or the in between the songs, is the highest amount of crowd noise they put in it. They do drop it off during the song. In the songs, you're able to hear the songs just fine, and everything sounds great. So that I loved it, that album so much. So it really didn't bother me, and I listened to it the other day. I didn't notice the crowd really. It really didn't bother me so much. The one that I listened to that where the crowd made. Actually, it was kind of they did a good job on it. At least Eddie Kramer, Beth. It makes you feel like the song starts playing, and the crowd kind of goes, "Oh, it's the song's coming up," and then he raises the crowd noise and stuff, and then when he starts singing again, it goes down. And then he starts to sing it. How the crowds, like, "Oh yeah, at that right time." Yeah. It was inventive how he did it. He did a good job of that, but it didn't really bother me. I mean, it's way better than the Live 3. I can't stand Live 3 as far as listening to it. No, it's just it's the production of it. Even though you have the crowd noise on Live 2, still Live 3 just
That's crazy talk.
It's not produced well. I don't like the way the guitar sound and so on. But
same situation. Bootlegs are better for a Live 3 as well. For my ears, there are a lot of bands that now do kind of similar with that really obnoxious audience. I've been listening to a lot of Metallica official live videos on YouTube, and all of them have this one girl in it that's always shrieking at the top of her lungs.
Oh.
She's like the random slasher victim in a horror movie, and like that for the whole song. It's like, what is your problem? Just shut the hell up. Why are you shrieking? I mean, talk about being unhinged. And it's like that all the way through the song. And that's what I find with the audience level. It just stays it's just feels unnatural. But again.
Did you see that box that they released on Load? Wow.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay. I wish Kiss would do something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I do and I don't, because again, a lot of those riffs tapes I find are so partial, so disjointed that they're not pleasurable listening experiences. I'm glad they've got them. I'm glad they can just chuck them out, but I don't see myself going back to them. I'll go back to demo forms of the albums much more. And the live stuff is great. I love Metallica boxes. They're imperfect. What was it? Def Leppard did one. What was the last one they did? Pyromania Deluxe Edition, which had all these very, very partial demos, and it just drove me up the fucking wall. I mean, it literally just was riffs.
It shows the construction of the songs, right?
Well, not even that, because they were all abandoned ideas, and it's just like, that's all there is, or that's all you're giving us.
But that's why you only hear that much, because you can see how bad the song was, or why they didn't think it was strong enough. But
they were great riffs, Mark.
Not all riffs are great.
Yeah, Mark.
Believe me. Not all riffs are great.
All right. So the way this conversation is structured is that there are 14 songs to choose from that are going to replace those 5 studio creations, and it's nothing against Bob. And they are Great Expectations, Flaming You, Sweet Pain, Do You Love Me, Take Me, Baby Driver, Love 'Em and Leave 'Em, Mr. Speed, See You in Your Dreams, Got Love for Sale, Hooligan, Almost Human, Plaster Caster, and Then She Kissed Me. So those are the 5 from which to pick. And in order to start this off, I've correlated all our picks just to set up the first 4. And this first pick had 4 of us choosing it. And Daniel, Lonnie, me, and Mark. Ken did not pick Flaming Youth. So let's hear some Flaming Youth live.
Hey!
slightly imperfect, but that's live rock and roll for you before tapes and the vocal smoothing pedals. Flaming Youth, that one of my picks. I always thought it was a great anthem. It was always one of those songs that fell by the wayside during the Destroyer tour. So I'm a firm believer that its anthemic nature gives it a firm second chance. Mark, you also picked Flaming Youth.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, like I said, a lot of the Destroyer songs I feel are better represented in a live capacity. This is one of those songs for sure that I enjoy much more in a live environment. Too bad they don't have many soundboards with that song on it, because I think it would have sounded great. Audience recordings are sometimes harsh to listen to, but it still sounds good. The overall performance was good. That was a soundboard. That. Yeah. Wow, that's a terrible soundboard. But wow. Anyways, it that doesn't matter. But the performance is what we're listening to, and it's interesting. I thought that it's a good song and should have been played more often, I think, live.
Yeah, I believe that was Roosevelt Stadium. It's from the video, which would be, I guess, Monitor Mix. I don't know the specifics on that, but it was the best. I'm not using anything that's not original contemporary for the audio today, by the way. Daniel, you also had Flaming Youth.
Yeah, of course. I think the anthemic, feel of the song would make it a perfect opener on like a fourth side of a live too. And the theme is perfect for the young crowd that was at this concert. And I kind of liked it when they played it with Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer as well. Maybe just because they played something from left field, but they at least proved it worked real good live. So I would have liked to see it opening up, the final side of a live too.
Yeah, I can't remember if I saw them do this one live with Tommy and Eric, but it was certainly one of those ones to come out of left field. I love your idea of opening up side 4 with it. That's it. That's a great one. Yeah. Ken, it wasn't on your list. How far off your list was it?
Pretty far. Yeah, I mean, it's a good song. It's okay live, I think. But I had other songs that I felt more worthy, I had a method to my madness, I guess, in a way. So yeah, but it's a fine pick. It's okay.
All right, let's see if this next pick does any better. I'll let it introduce itself. I love those little yelps that Paul's putting into the ending syllable when he's singing that. There's so much joy in that song. And my logic is it was printed on the back cover of that misprint of Alive too, so it should have been on the album. If it had been on the album, they wouldn't have been able to absolutely turn it into the abomination that it was on You Wanted the Best in 1996, because that was a sin. Absolutely a sin. Mark, you did not pick Take Me. Why not?
Really?
I didn't pick it because, as you'll see, there was a reason why I didn't pick it. Because, you'll see. I mean, it'll make total sense why I didn't pick it. It's a great song. I love it. I definitely think it's another classic in the live environment. And yes, Stacy, that was hi-hats. Whoo, man. Your ears are getting just a beaten with that hi-hat there. I think Mr. Kramer should have turned down that 12K a little bit. There's a little hot there. But anyways, it's a great song. Fantastic. It's straight to the point, under 3 minutes. What a great song.
Yeah, and that is an Eddie Kramer touched recording. That is obviously from the Rock and Roll Party in Japan bootleg that circulated for many years, and that is from the version that has circulated for many years. So it's got way too much up high in those frequencies. The dogs in the neighborhood heard that one. Ken, take me. It's on your list this time.
Yeah, no, that's a for sure song that I wanted on it. I mean, I don't know why they didn't put those songs on the album. I think obviously they were going to be on there, but they took them off for whatever reason. But I think that was a big miss by them not putting that one on there. I think it's just a great song live. It's a great song in general, but really, really sounds great live. So yeah, I love that song. That's why I put it on my list.
Another up-tempo party song anthem. Just really great energy. Daniel, it made your list.
Yeah, of course. I think Take Me, always drew the shortest straw. It went up against Making Love and I Want You, and they always picked those two when they played live through the years, through the decades. I think it's really on par with those songs. It's kind of a similar song, but the riff-orama in this song is one of the best ever in history. I love the riff, da, 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 and the way Paul sings along to it. I can see the crowd going in unison, listening to this song, making it an all-time classic if they had started playing it live on every tour. Sadly, they didn't, and it only saw the light of day a few times after the reunion, sorry to say, but and of course the lyrics are hilarious in this one. I remember Gene wasn't fond of singing this song because he was dealt, that high-pitched chorus part when it sounded like a girl. But I guess that's the only downside on the song. It sounds kind of hilarious if you only listen to his high-pitched part there. But what a great song! What a great classic Kiss song!
Yeah, what a great vibe. Let's go into the ones that hasn't made the list. Well, it has made the list because two of you picked it, but there's no audio available for it, so it wouldn't have made the cut for if we were combining all our scores and our picks and everything. But I thought it was a great pick. And Ken and Daniel, you're the only two who selected this one, and I didn't. Which shame on me for being Team Green. Baby Driver. I mean, what makes both of you pick that? Is it because you're worried about too much of a focus on mainly Paul as the songwriter and trying to make sure that everyone's well represented in your picks? Daniel, start with you.
Well, that's a part of it, but I think the main thing for me is that I've been on this Peter Criss-orama the last year. I've listened through his, solo albums and even the latest one, the one for All. I think for the first time back to back and really digging into the song. So I've really fallen in love with his voice all over again. Really appreciating those early 80s solo albums, at least some parts of them. And I just want him more on the album, more of his vocals, and especially on a, rocking song. So Baby Driver is probably one of his best rockers that he released. I didn't really care for it that much on the album, but I think live, Peter Criss vocal live, you can't go wrong with that. So that's why I picked Baby Driver.
Yeah, nice pick. I wish there was a good live version of that we could have illustrated that with. Ken, what about you? I'm surprised you went Team Green rather than Red.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did go Red though, actually. But anyway, this song, Baby Driver, I think it's a great song. I love it. I love it more than, I guess the alternative would have been Hooligan, and I really don't like that much. Baby Driver is a much better song. I think it rocks better, I mean, when I first bought the album, I didn't like it that much, but over time, I love it more and more as through the years. I like it really a lot on Rock and Roll Over. So I just think it's a great song. It would have been a great one live with Peter's great vocals.
So is your problem with Hooligan that you hate Chevys?
Yeah, I like Dodge, like Mark.
Yeah, sponsoring Aerosmith soon. Yep. All right, let's move into pick number 3, which Stacy's already mentioned, AB as well. Where's my media assets? This is a pick that I made as well, and since it's on that misprint back cover, I think it should have been on for the reasons everyone has already said.
This is off Love Gun. Gonna hear something from Peter Chris. Call Hooligan.
I didn't want to interrupt Ace's solo there and make sure that we got some of Ace's solo. It's a great rock and roll song to me. I mean, it's out of character for Kiss, but it's those elements that made Kiss so interesting because different style, different influences all coming to the fore. I like Gene's bass work on that. Ace's leads obviously are really just let him go pure rock and roll. I think that's from Houston 77, so those are overdriven as well, unfortunately, for their sonics. I prefer a warmer sound. But again, Hooligan got my vote. Mark, it got your vote as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I like Baby Driver, but to me, this is a much better song. I mean, that chorus in there with those double guitar, that's a much better chorus than anything in Baby Driver. I mean, and I've always loved that song. It has a special place in my heart because when I saw that Houston show on video and Paul was playing that double neck still, I mean, I always look at whenever I see my double neck there in the corner there, I think of two songs, Xanadu by Rush and Hooligan, because I remember him playing his guitar there. And he even had a capo on there. I was like, wow, a double neck with a capo on. I don't think I've ever seen that too often. So, and I've always enjoyed that song for it. I think Peter sings the hell out of it. It's good. Everything about it good. And Ace's solo, fantastic in that. I mean, I like I said, I like Baby Driver too, but it's a little too A, B sections for me in that song. Whereas this has a little bit extra, licks here. Like the chorus is the main thing that I think solidifies it as being fantastic, is that double harmony guitar there.
Well, Lonnie's not here to be the third pick. By the way, we've gone from 4 of us agreeing on the first 2 to now being down to 3 of us agreeing on songs. It really drops off quite rapidly when you've only got 5 slots for 14 songs. Daniel, no Hooligan for you. You're not a Hooligan?
I liked it. It was my 6th pick because the guy that came up with this topic, he mentioned that if you could replace one song, and I actually used Hooligan to replace Hard Like Woman. I didn't want less Peter Criss on the album, but I wanted more of the rocky, the rock Peter Criss. So I replaced Hard Like Woman with Hooligan. So it's just outside of my 5 top picks. So I like it as well. And I also like that crazy guitar on the chorus. And Ace, of course, he played all acisms during the solo, but it sounds great. Nothing new it brings nothing new to the table, but it sounds good. It really suits the song. And when you played it live now, and I listened to it in the headphones, as you said, Julian, the bass is really cool to nod your head to. I mean, it really comes through. So what a great song.
Yep. And Ken, it didn't make your list either.
No, I mean, it's okay song, but it shouldn't be on this Alive 2 set, in my opinion. I just don't care for it live.
Who is this guy?
It's one of my least favorite songs, other than Then She Kissed Me, off of Love Gun. So yeah, I never really gravitated too much to that song. It's okay, but I don't think it's worthy to be on here.
You're not
on
worthy.
the Live 2.
Wow,
Crazy
you're
Tom.
judgmental. Mean. Well, you know what? You are the only person who chose Sweet Pain. Why do you think Sweet Pain? And that was probably performed live in '76 because it was on the rehearsal list for Destroyer tour. So I don't think it made it past the first or second show.
I like
that.
Yeah, I like Sweet Pain. I know they played it on the cruise or whatever.
Unfinished sounding song.
I think it's all right live. I mean, I think it would be great live. I've always liked Sweet Pain. People give it a knock on Destroyer, but I think it's a really good song. I enjoy it a lot. I think it would go over well live. And one of my reasons is some of the songs I picked is I tried to even out the playing field for Jane and Paul. So I gave them equal amount of vocals, songs, each on mine. I mean, I gave them 9.5, half being shout out loud is the half, but 9.5 songs to sing each. So anyway,
Mark, are you giving Gene a participation medal for Sweet Pain?
Oh, I don't even know if he deserves that.
Or maybe it's not 9.5, but anyway,
terrible. I mean, that shouldn't even have been on an album, let alone on a live record. I mean, come on, it's not good. I mean, I've never liked that song. I mean, I understand Ken is a Gene guy through and through, so he could write a abysmal song, and Ken will be right there to give it a thumbs up because he supports the man.
Not everyone.
Gene and what he does, and he's a follower and loves them, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. But I don't like it. It's just lazy writing, and I never liked it.
All right, Daniel, would you like to pile on Sweet Pain as well?
Well, it always made me think of that old joke. I don't know how it translates into English, but you know what the sailor said who had sex with a captain? Aye, Captain. Well, if you get, I don't know if you get that, but because the Sweet Pain is about Gene doing something to somebody, and you know, maybe in the wrong hole.
It's S&M kind of song.
S&M, yeah. So I was always turned off by that song. So
I don't think he's talking. He's not thinking about guys though.
I think
sailors. I don't.
Maybe not doing it with the captain, but to someone is doing that kind of stuff.
Gene always likes
cringe. Yeah.
Look at
my love is larger than life.
Nothing to lose. He talks about the back door there too, early on.
Yeah. But that's a bit fun, you know. It sounds a bit more funny. This one, but Sweet Pain. Not for me. I don't like this one at all. And I have to, you know, piggyback off what Mark said. I think it's one of the crappiest songs on Destroyer, and it shouldn't be on any live album ever.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's with finality. We'll move on to you're the only person, Daniel, who chose. And shame on you, Ken. Daniel is the only person who chose Almost Human.
What?
To make this.
I almost.
Well, almost doesn't count.
Human.
So Daniel, why should Almost Human make it? Whereas you've just been so vicious towards Gene.
Well, I'll explain to you guys. You need a few really heavy Gene Simmons songs on a live album, and you got God of Thunder. That sounds great, but this would be the perfect, you know, 1-2 punch. Almost Human, a hard and heavy Gene song, maybe on the fourth side, I'd love to hear this one on the album. I always enjoyed the riff in Almost Human, the down, da down, down, rabadiba. Such a great riff, and Gene goes all out, singing like the vampire that he was in '77. The lyrics fits him perfectly, and it's just a scary song. I would like to see him doing this on the Alive 2 album, and I can, the way he looks on the front of the cover, that's the way I vision him doing, Almost Human. So you need another heavy Gene song on this album.
Ken, did you enjoy all that love for Gene and Almost Human?
Yeah, I mean, Almost Human is one of my favorite songs on Love Gun, but one of the reasons I didn't put Almost Human was because of too many Love Gun songs from Gene on this Alive 2, because you already got for me, Christine 16, right? And you have I don't know, a couple other ones. I was trying to make it 3 per album for Gene, so that's one of the reasons I chose Sweet Pain, by the way, also adding a song on that one, because he only had God of Thunder actually from that album, so I added the Sweet Pain. So anyway, Almost Human, it was borderline for me. The only reason I didn't, I think it wouldn't go, it would be kind of hard to create that same feel of that song live. That's the only reason I didn't do it, but it's one of my favorite songs on Love Gun.
So Mark, Max commented that Almost Human is unplayable live. Musically speaking, from your interpretation, how tough would it be to do Almost Human live, and what do you think about
who's playing the bongos?
Well, I think that's what I think he means by it, unplayable live, because I think he's associating with not having a bongo player as making it unplayable. But of course, you would just play it without the bongos. You would just play the song
congas,
as is,
not
right?
bongos. Congas.
Or congas.
Yeah.
The mighty Jimmy Malin.
Yes. So you would just play without that, and that's that. So it wouldn't be impossible to play it, but it wouldn't sound the same. And and I understand I understand Daniel's reasoning why he picked it, because he thinks that there should be another heavy Gene song on there. I just don't like that song. I mean, I choose
What?
Plaster Caster over it. I think Plaster Caster to me is, I don't know. I maybe because I don't like congos. I mean, I always think of Santana when I hear that.
What's wrong with you? You don't like congas.
Yeah. That stuff is so not rock and roll. It's unbelievable. If I want to hear like Black Magic Woman, then I'll put that on. Not Almost Human. So,
oh no, Wicked Lester.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just never been a favorite of mine, that song. So
fair enough. We'll do one of my picks that I was the only one to choose in a second. Oh hey, you're still here, watching or listening. Why don't you hit that subscribe button or click the like one? And if you want even more, click on the join button on YouTube. Thanks for your support. All right, let's see if I can make Ken proud of me. I was the only one who picked Got Love for Sale. I think a little bit like I think a little bit like Hooligan. It's got a more just rock and roll kind of feel to it that could have come across with decent energy. And they did apparently rehearse it for the Love Gun tour. And that's the one that we believe has become confused with Almost Human for being performed at that very first Love Gun show in Halifax, Nova Scotia in July 77. So I would have loved to have heard Got Love for Sale. I've always liked that. It's been one of my kind of, guilty pleasure songs with Gene. And obviously it is one with Edward Van Halen, having done the demo with him initially. That makes it interesting. It would be great to hear Ace doing that solo live and acifying it even more. But I think it would have a really good rock and roll energy. All right, tell me how I'm wrong, Ken.
Well, you're not wrong, actually.
Thank you.
I mean, even though I didn't pick it, I was close to picking that. I was on the borderline of switching that with another Gene song that I had on my list. So, I thought that would have been a cool pick to have. I just thought it wouldn't maybe work live as well as the other song that I picked. So that's the only reason. But I think it's a really good pick by you.
Yeah. The great thing about this is there are no wrong answers. There are no right answers either.
Okay.
So, Mark, Got Love for Sale, thoughts?
Another one that's not too high on my list of songs. I mean, even Eddie Van Halen couldn't really save it. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's nothing terrible, but I think Gene's written better songs, throughout his career than these ones. I mean, honestly, I think, and I know Ken's going to be not liking this because we're talking about Paul all of a sudden, but I think Mr. Speed is a much better song than God Love for Sale. Way better song.
Yeah.
It's different, way different type of song, though. I mean,
much better. Though.
Yeah. Different taste.
I like Mr. Speed, but yeah.
Daniel, any thoughts on Got Love for Sale before we move on?
Not too much thought has gone into that song when he made that one. I think it's a middle of the road filler stuff for me. It never stood out on the album, and it shouldn't be on a live album either. So I think it's good it was left off. It's not bad, but it's nothing special either. So I'm good with it not being on a live too.
This one wouldn't make the full list, but both you and Mark picked it. And since Mark mentioned Mr. Speed a minute ago, what made you select Mr. Speed?
Mr. Speed is one of those songs that went up against I Want You and Making Love. And much like Take Me, it didn't make the cut for Kiss, so it was never really played live a lot. I like the riff in the song. It's a real cool, funny riff to listen to and to play. But I think the competition was so, hard on that album that they had to leave some great stuff off when they went on tour. So Mr. Speed, I remember hearing it on that convention tour in '95. They just played around with it, and it made the hair raise on my arms. It sounded so cool with Paul Stanley belting out the vocals. So it's really sad they didn't play it more because I think it sounded great. But I guess they had too many songs of that, sort of vibe, so it didn't make the cut and it was left off. But when you have four sides on a live too with live songs, I sure as hell think it should have been on that fourth side. Yeah, great song.
Yeah, Mark, you picked it as well. Is that a riff that you've played and one you enjoy?
Oh yeah, I mean, I Rock and Roll Over being my favorite record of all time from Kiss. I mean, I've played lots of those riffs from that album, and it's one of those fun records that just jam. You put it on, Apple Music here, just play, and I have my guitar stuff all set up here, and you can jam through the whole album. It's just such a fun thing to do. I'm sure Daniel's done the same thing. I'm sure Julian, you've done that with many Kiss songs, jammed around with them while you're sitting around some afternoon. It's a great song. So I really like it. And like Daniel said, it's an interesting riff. It's not a very simple one initially. It takes a little bit of thought and just figuring out some of the fingering of it. And it's great though. I really, really think it's one of Paul's least recognized songs. And, but it's like what Daniel said, when you have that many good songs and so much good material around at that time, something has to be put by the wayside at that time, right? Unfortunately, Mr. Speed's one of them.
Yep. All right, Ken, any thoughts on Mr. Speed before we move on?
Yeah, it's a good pick. Just thinking about that album of Paul's songs, that's probably his best collection of songs that he's ever written on one album.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it, I think that's the best group of songs. He was on top right then writing those songs. And that every one of his songs were great on that album. So, but yeah, Mr. Speed, I've always enjoyed it. I always wanted them to maybe play that live. But yeah, that's a good pick.
Yeah, when Paul Stanley was fire, he was hotter than hell. I mean, absolutely amazing.
Wow, look at that.
All right. Sorry. All right, the next one had three of us picking. Let's let the music do the talking. Yeah, that Eddie Kramer 12K frequency shit gets a bit painful after a while, especially over YouTube. But the point of using the Rock and Roll Party in Japan stuff, and they've been remastered by so many people who don't know what they're doing, that it really is an abomination on top of an abomination, is because they used Beth from this show on Alive 2. They could easily have used Do You Love Me and Take Me from the same recording and integrated them into Alive 2, which is probably the case. Anyway, but who had Do You Love Me? Oh, I did. Okay, well, I've said enough. Mark.
Yeah, again, probably a surprise considering my distaste of Destroyer. But there's another one of these songs I think that sounds good live. And I think they ended up making this song much better live as well. And, when I was doing this list, I kind of made a proper running order for side D. So I put like Flaming Youth first, but like everybody else, Mr. Speed next, Hooligan next, Plastercaster. And I ended it with Do You Love Me? Because I always kind of envisioned like if you could do this song similarly to how they kind of did like a Rock and Roll All Night, because it has like a similar kind of long drum beginning that you can do like they did here on the show. And you can drag out that ending for who knows how long, and you can have confetti flying, and you can have all kinds of stuff happening at the end, and have a big ending for Do You Love Me? And I think it would be a fine closer of a thing. I mean, it's not something that you would always probably do, but you could definitely do it in this situation, right? And I've always looked at side D in this arrangement as not part of the regular album. It would have been that side, like on some live records you have like the actual concert is side A, B, and C, and side D is live songs from another show. You know what I mean? Like how they tag it on. So I always kind of envisioned side D as that when I did this list. So, but yeah, I think Do You Love Me is a great song live. Much better live than on studio, in my opinion.
Yeah, so Stacy, what's up with these recordings? They sound like white noise. Well, number one is when they're imported into StreamYard for use during the shows, that affects the audio. Stuff like Rock and Roll Party in Japan that had mini disc in the equation when it comes back to the version that circulates. So again, those have been touched, retouched, overtouched, undertouched, molested, maligned, sonically abused over the years.
That's the only reason there's 10 years of engineering here too.
Yeah, going back to the original masters, when you hear the original master of something like this versus what circulates, the difference is palpable. I mean, it's absolutely insane, the difference of the power when you get all the frequencies properly transferred from original source material. There is always going to be a massive difference. Now, no, you can't have it. Universal, if they choose to release it at some point, will release it, and then everyone will be able to tell the difference. So we use the best we can to illustrate things, but also we're not trying to be the record label here. It's enough to illustrate the point. Do You Love Me? Well, Lonnie's not here, and he also chose this. So Ken, thoughts on Do You Love Me? It's on the back of that misprint again, so it should be on the album as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think it was a good pick. I picked it as a. Do you want me to talk about that replacement song?
Not yet.
Okay, but anyway, I think it was a good one instead of another one that was on the album. I think it goes well, over well live in concert. That's why they played it for years now, at least the last few years or so that they toured. So yeah, I've always liked it. I think it's a good song, and it's kind of a change in pace in the concert.
I like the drumming on that one particularly. Daniel, didn't make your list either.
No, it wasn't my short list, but it didn't make the final cut. I think it's a bit too monotonous, and also I think the guitars are really boring on that song. Even though Paul has some great vocals on it, I think if it goes up against other songs from Paul, like Mr. Speed and the other ones we've mentioned, I wouldn't put it over them, because I think it's a weaker song, especially as Mark said on the studio album. But live, when Mark had this great speech about ending the show with confetti and dragging out the ending, I can kind of envision it ending the final side on Alive too on a high note. I hadn't thought about that, but dragging it out, because it is monotonous, and it's they kind of dragged it out on stage anyway when they played it. So as a final song, maybe it could work. So I think that was a great idea from you, Mark.
Thank you, sir. I mean, if you think about it, they kind of do that also with Rock and Roll Night. Like, come on, every getting of the thing, the chorus is all with them, and they top it, and just
Yeah.
that's the kind of formula for the big ending.
Yeah.
So we have 3 songs of these 14 that didn't receive any votes. I don't think any of these are going to be surprising to anyone. No one selected Great Expectations. That would have to wait until
That wouldn't go over well.
2003 to get any love. I don't think
Yeah.
I can't recall off the top of my head if they even attempted any of that during the convention era. Fun song, not suitable for a live performance, but I'm really glad that they did it for the symphony, and we have that version with 3/4 of the original lineup performing it. Also, no one chose "See You in Your Dreams." And that seems a little bit of an outcast when it comes to the Kiss song for me, because Gene obviously said that it wasn't as good as it could have been. It was his sweet pain of Rock and Roll Over that he had to redo it on his solo album to make it sound exactly the same to my ears. And then She Kissed Me. No one. I'm glad. I'm always relieved that no one picks one of the worst things that they ever did in their catalog. Daniel, Then She Kissed Me, See You in Your Dreams, and Great Expectations. Thought on those 3 rejects today?
Well, I think no one should be on the album of those. The closest one is probably that Gene Simmons song. It could work kind of, like Love Him, Leave Him or something, kind of a rocker with Gene. But I'm glad no one picked any of those songs. Way weaker than the ones we picked.
Ken.
Yeah, that it just doesn't make sense. Some of those songs, I can't see them going over live. Like, for instance, Great Expectations. You got to have the symphony out there and all that kind of stuff. It just, you'd have to have it piped in musically like Beth is for Peter, in order for that to even.
Can you imagine Gene Simmons standing up on stage, dripping blood?
Yeah, you can't have the demon. It's just not going to work.
His face looking like the album cover.
Not unless
Great
they
Expectations.
changed it and somehow rocked it. Somehow changed the whole song into a rocker somehow. But otherwise, no.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, all the points that you guys made are pretty much the same. I mean, Great Expectations needs a full orchestra treatment to do it. That's why, I agree with Julian. The symphony version of it is probably the only version that ever should be done of it, and there you go, we have it. The other ones, I've never understood why they used that song for a cover. There's so many other songs, even during that time period, that they could have picked that would have been much better cover, but they picked that song. It's unbelievable that they picked such a lousy song as that. I mean, Jesus, my parents used to listen to the original. That's how lame it was. Come on, So it's. Yeah, and you know what? See You in Your Dreams Tonight. It's not the worst song in the world. I mean, it's on Rock and Roll Over. I really love that album beginning to end. But there were other songs that were better. That's why I just didn't pick it.
Yeah, very curious about that Love Gun, and obviously the early printing proof did have in place of Then She Kissed Me, See You Baby. Which I've never found any other reference to that as a Kiss song title. So that to me is still a mystery. And who knows, maybe it was a better song, but there was a bit of a fad in 77 for redoing some of that earlier, doo-wop vocal pop. Sean Cassidy had done something and taken something.
Did you run?
And yeah, I don't remember what it was, but it may well be it. All right, so we've got 2 songs left actually from that 14. And Ken and Mark both selected Plaster Caster. And before you guys talk about that, I will say the same thing applies that was the case with Symphony. I am so glad on MTV Unplugged and during the Unplugged era that they did Plaster Caster. I'm glad that they continue to do that at the sound check things way into the final era. What a great song that was. I wouldn't have picked it for the live album, but it really is a fun live recording in the right setting. Mark, Plaster Caster.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just pretty much nailed the nail on the head with the hammer properly, because I think that Plastercaster, while I didn't mind it on the album, the unplugged version of it just really solidified my liking of it or loving of it even more. And I think that it shines in that setup. I think that it deserves that treatment like it did for MTV Unplugged. And I think, to me, it's my favorite version of that song. And of course, you're not going to play like that live. You have a rocking show and 100,000 decibels going on. All of a sudden, you're going to drop down to an acoustic guitar and do it that way. It just wouldn't fit. But but I do think it's a good song. And I think the Unplugged, if one thing Unplugged did, is it showed why those songs were so good. Because if you could play a song like that on acoustic guitar and make them sound that good, the song is good.
Ken, Plastercaster.
Yeah, I've always loved that song from the first time I heard it, playing Love Gun, and I always thought it was a great song, one of his better songs on Love Gun. So, yeah, I thought it should go well over live, and we've seen it live in certain cases, and it's always good, always a winner as far as the crowd always seems to love it when they do that one.
Daniel, anything to say about Plastercaster?
Well, I would just like to add that MTV Unplugged sure opened up my eyes to a lot of the older stuff that I really hadn't, taken into consideration when thinking about great Kiss songs. It started off right off the bat with Coming Home. I never paid much attention to that song, but on MTV Unplugged, it rocked as hell. Plasticaster, the same thing, and Going Blind. And even that song from Gene Simmons' solo album, See You Tonight, sounded beautiful on the album. So I think the great legacy of the MTV Unplugged record is that it opened up, the eyes of fans from the 80s to that older stuff. Because when I became a fan in the mid-80s, I always thought that those early albums sounded so crappy, and I couldn't really hear the greatness of some of the songs. It wasn't until MTV Unplugged I kind of got into those songs and made my way back to those early albums. So I have to tip the hat to MTV Unplugged. What a great record!
So you finally found your way.
Not to that song. Never found my way to that song.
Oh my gosh!
Well, the last song in this set it would have had 3 votes, but I changed mine at the very last minute to Got Love for Sale. And like everyone else, seeking a bit of balance, I wanted to make sure that there were some more Gene songs. But in the end, I went with Got Love for Sale, and only Ken and Lonnie went with Love 'Em and Leave 'Em. So here's a bit of, and this is from the rehearsal. From November 76, not from 2006, even though there's soundboard, because I just don't want to commingle with the conversation being, a live 2 today with stuff from a different lineup and a different era. Love 'Em and Leave 'Em.
And we leave
Yeah, it's a bit brutal, but there you go. That I think was a video camera, static camera, with a mic. So it was enough just to review the rehearsals, which was its purpose, of course. Who knows? Maybe they do have some better recordings of that. And I do believe that this may have been performed at the first couple of shows on the Rock and Roll Over Tour. I'd have to check back on notes there. But that early section of the Rock and Roll Over Tour was really, really good with the amount of songs that had come into the set list, including Hard Luck Woman. Yeah. So, really good pick, Ken. Why?
Yeah, I like the song. I think it's, would do well live, not on that recording that we just heard. But yeah, I think it's a good song, a good boogie kind of Gene Simmons song that would work well in the concert, or it should have been on live too. So yeah, I enjoy it. That's why I chose it. I think it was that one, but I was picking between that one and Got Love for Sale. So, either one would have worked.
Yeah, I always thought with the sonics of that song and kind of the cadence of the vocal, it was a very good jerky Frankenstein. I mean, he could have
been a jerky,
a full kind of animatronic Frankenstein, puppet while singing that one. So, it could have been fun visually.
Yeah, I think so.
Done live. And again, that's one that I do hope to hear the original lineup perform on a soundboard at some point. Much better audio quality than that. Mark, thoughts on Love 'Em and Leave 'Em?
Yeah, I mean, it's another song that I like as well. I mean, again, it was more of a situation where there were other ones that I liked more than this. But I have a pretty strong memory of this one too, because I remember the first time I heard this, excuse me, or one of the first times I heard it was when I saw that video for the Don Kirshner, when they were showing those 3 videos that they did. And seeing him on there, and Gene was really great on that. He had some good close-ups on him, and he looked really menacing when he was singing it. And that whole performance of that was really good. And I think it did a lot to propel that song in its status with Kiss fans, because it was really well done. I mean, they did that. They did Hard Luck Woman, and they believe, was it I Want You? Maybe I don't remember what the third one was. But yeah, those 3 songs, were really interesting picks to have on there, and I think Love 'Em Leave 'Em benefited the most from having it done on a big television show like that.
Yeah, even lip sync, still fun to watch.
Yeah.
Daniel,
I don't mind the song, but I think I'd much rather have Almost Human on live too. This is a decent song, kind of a rocker. And I also remember seeing those videos back in the day and thinking Gene Simmons looked kind of menacing in the video. But the competition is so tough, so still I wouldn't put it on the album. But I can enjoy the song. And they played it in the later years. I think they had it on one of those tours with Eric and Tom and tried it out a bit.
Yeah, 2006 Japan tour. Yeah. It came back along with Kissin' Time, which are, again, I didn't want to commingle stuff today with the Alive 2 era, so I kept it as close as possible. Which brings us to the Kill or Marry section of the show, which is, as an added option, people could be allowed to swap out one song that did make Alive 2 with an alternative. And as Max said, it would be interesting to hear what people selected. I'm going to go first because I cheated. And I am killing Tomorrow and Tonight, which should never have been on that album. Horrendous song.
Yeah.
Just too transparent. It's fun. Come on, it's just a rock and roll song.
Yeah.
It's a redo of Rock and Roll All Night in some ways. But I'm giving it the boot, the Spanish Archer, the elbow, and I'm going to replace it with another song, Rocket Ride, live.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And that's how I'm cheating, because Ace brought in Rocket Ride and Love Gun on the same damn tape as his potential songs for Love Gun, and he wanted to do Rocket Ride, and they liked Love Gun. Shock Me better, pardon me. So, which is why Shock Me ended up on Love Gun, whereas he would have rather have done Rocket Ride. And I'm a firm believer that the Alive 2, if it had had a new song performed live, would have just made more sense. And Rocket Ride, having been a top 40 hit from that side 4, payola or whatever, I just think makes so much sense. Plus, the number one reason why I'm putting Rocket Ride on live is that song should have been performed live by the original.
Yeah.
And it never was, and we'll never have it. Thank goodness Ace does it. To me, it was just a crime against humanity that Rocket Ride never went alive. So, sue me. Mark,
What did I pick, or did you want me to comment?
You can comment and then you can pick whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, interesting pick. I mean, that went against the rules, but that's fine. You're the creator of this podcast, so you can do whatever you want. So
now Max approves. This is his topic. So
Real breaker.
Excellent choice. Yeah, well, I mean, I like Rocket Ride, so I have no objections to it being in there. And I don't mind Tomorrow and Tonight either. I mean, that's one song that, believe it or not, I don't really have too big an issue with, except for the fact that it wasn't really a true live performance. But as far as having an audience there, But for my pick, and I know I'm going to get blasted for this, of course, not the song that I used, because you asked me before, why didn't I pick, Take Me as part of the 5? Well, that's because I used it as my replacement song. So I'm going to put Take Me in this set and replace the song that I've never liked, studio version, live version of it. I've never liked this song, and that's Christine 16. Bye-bye, Get Out, and replace that with Take Me. Christine 16 is a terrible song. It's just another 50s rewrite bebop thing that Gene had to get out of his system. Wow. Terrible stuff, you can tell he was clearly influenced by Bob with that dreadful piano part that they put into studio version. Unbelievable. And this again shows Ken's love of Gene, and I respect that he would think that this is such a great song that he would be grimacing over there when really it's just terrible song, So and Take Me is much better, way better than Christine 16.
Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Almighty. I'm going to put him on mute now. Ken, would you like to respond to those scurrilous accusations?
Can you ban him again from the board? Yeah, Christine Scene's a great song. It's one of my favorite songs off of that album. And when I first, Live 2 was my first Kiss album I bought, and I would always be playing that side with Christine 16 and Calling Dr. Love. Those are my two first favorite Gene Simmons songs. I loved them. I never got sick of Christine 16. Yeah, it's an old style kind of rock and roll kind of written song, which there's nothing wrong with that. The old stuff's good. Let Me Go Rock and Roll, all that kind of stuff is good. It's the roots of rock and roll and that sort of stuff. But even it has piano. Well, it doesn't have piano live, so you don't have to worry about that. Mark, there was no live piano.
Oh, I know
on
that
Kiss concert. All right. So I think it's a great song. I don't know why you replace that song and not some other song. There's a couple other songs that you could easily replace over Christine 16.
All right, Daniel, anything on Christine 16?
Well, first off, your pick there, the ringmaster is allowed to cheat. If I was allowed to cheat, I would actually pick All American Man and put it on the album because I think that was a great song. And when it comes to Christine 16, the biggest shocker for me was back in 92 when they released this menacing single, Unholy, and they went all out in leather and, spikes and looked really cool. And then they went on tour and the head exploded of the Statue of Liberty. And they played Christine 16 as one of the songs. It was played, I think, all the way through the tour, Christine 16. It was kind of a shocker. Not one of my favorites, but I don't think it's as lousy as Mark thinks. But I do see the resemblance when it comes to older music. It's kind of, makes you think about those early mid-50s songs a bit, early 60s songs. But I kind of like those songs. But if I would pick a song, I would like more menacing songs and less syrupy songs. So I'm kind of like Mark. I would remove the song Hard Luck Woman and I would put in Hooligan instead of Hard Luck Woman, because I think Hard Luck Woman is great song if it was sung by Rod Stewart. It has nothing to do on a menacing Alive 2 album with the blood dripping, the blood pouring out of Gene's mouth on the cover. I'd rather see Hooligan. I think it fits the album better. But I guess since it was a favorite of Paul, it made the album.
That's a good pick. Did I get everyone's substitutions? Because I kind of lost track.
No.
Did I forget you again?
That's all right. You told me to hold off on it anyway. I replaced, like you, Julian, I replaced Tomorrow and Tonight, which I think is kind of a throwaway attempt to rewrite, Rock and Roll All Night. And I didn't think it belonged on. I have no idea why they chose that to put that on there. If I was going to pick another song like Julian cheated, I would have picked Larger Than Life instead. But
of course,
my song to replace Tomorrow and Tonight is "Do You Love Me," which we talked about. That was the song I used. I replaced the Tomorrow and Tonight. "Do You Love Me" is a better song than Tomorrow and Tonight.
So the question goes out to the audience. What song are you removing from Alive 2 and what are you replacing it with? If you wanted to remove anything from the album, what 5 songs would you have included from the second group of 3 studio albums in place of those 5 studio creations? It's endless, really, and it's really down to taste. I really do hope that eventually they get around to doing a super deluxe treatment of Alive 2, because I think that could be fun.
Yes.
But I hope they don't keep something like Rock and Roll Party in Japan for that, or for Rock and Roll Over deluxe treatment, which would be 2026, I guess, if they're going to do 50th anniversary for that. I still think Rock and Roll Party in Japan needs to come out as a record store day first release and be issued on cassette, on CD, and on limited edition vinyl. White vinyl with a red splodge in the front like the Japanese flag or something. Get it streaming out. Just white and red.
Sun.
Yeah, something like that. It's again, that has the songs that should have also been included on Alive 2, as far as I'm concerned. And again, opinions are going to vary on that. There's so much to choose from. Songs that were tried out. Hard Luck Woman obviously didn't work during the tour in 76 and didn't make it into 77, I don't believe. So bringing that back was, maybe Paul wanted it to have a second chance. Maybe they wanted to make sure Peter had another vocal. Who knows, the reasons behind it. That's also why I'd like to have a super deluxe edition to continue looking at all the questions that we still have about Alive 2 as an album, and some of the mysteries or clarifications that still remain. But like we said at the beginning of this show, Alive 2 does not need fixing. No. There isn't anything wrong with that. They had intended for Kiss Alive to have this format. Originally in 75, they were planning on doing 3 sides live, 1 side new material. And I believe some of that came down to contractual issues with Casablanca. And those first 5 recordings that they were doing in September of that year that became Destroyer could have been on the live album. So who knows? Interesting times. Kiss is a band that never bores, and hopefully that's the same for everyone out there who's tuning into this episode. All right, that's it.
You're supposed to like your vocals.
What?
Did you ban yourself?
Oh, are muted, Julian.
Julian banned himself.
Julian?
Am I still muted?
Oh, now you're there. Oh,
you're back.
Yeah, my phone started ringing and it's too near my cable. That's it. That's the show for this week. We do appreciate you joining us.
Yes.
Where the hell's the end stream? All right. So thank you for joining us live. So from Mark, Daniel, Ken, and myself, we shall see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the message board and discuss the topics we've broadcast today. Don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you've listened to this show, and a like would very much be appreciated. We hope you'll join us again, but until then, remember, life's a radio. Turn it up to 10.